Her fingers pressed against cold skin where a pulse should have been, and in that frozen second, Amara Lewis realized she'd just exposed a murder in front of the killers themselves. 3 hours earlier. The Kim estate rose from the Hollywood Hills like a fortress carved from marble and secrets. Amara Lewis had seen wealth before. She'd worked enough Koreatown galas to recognize the difference between new money and old power. But this? This was something else entirely. She adjusted her black server's uniform in the staff bathroom, smoothing wrinkles that weren't there, buying time before stepping into a world where she didn't belong. "You good?" Marcus, another server, appeared beside her, one of only 3 black staff hired for tonight's event. He'd worked the Kim family before. Knew the rules. "Keep your head down," he'd warned her in the van. "Don't speak unless spoken to. Don't look anyone in the eye. And for God's sake, don't ask questions." Amara nodded, but her reflection told a different story. 26 years old, criminology degree she couldn't afford to finish, working 3 jobs to keep her grandmother's care home paid. She'd taken this gig because it paid triple rate. Nobody mentioned why. "I'm fine," she lied. Marcus studied her. "This ain't like other events, Amara. These people." He trailed off, glancing toward the kitchen where staff prepared in tense silence. "Just be invisible tonight. Trust me." But invisible was something Amara had never been good at. The ceremonial hall stretched before her like a cathedral built for power instead of prayer. Silk banners in crimson and gold hung from 30-foot ceilings, each embroidered with symbols Amara didn't recognize but felt the weight of anyway. Rows of chairs faced a raised platform where an ornate throne sat beneath spotlights that seemed to burn rather than illuminate. Over 300 guests filled the space, men in tailored suits worth more than her yearly salary, women draped in traditional hanbok that cost more than her car. Everyone moved with careful precision, like dancers who'd rehearsed their parts 1,000 times. This wasn't a celebration. It was a coronation. "Tea service, row 7, a manager hissed in her ear, shoving a silver tray into her hands. Amara moved through the crowd, becoming what Marcus said she needed to be, invisible. But her mind? Her mind stayed sharp. Years of studying criminal justice had taught her to notice things others missed, the micro-expressions that betrayed lies, the body language that screamed tension, the patterns that revealed truth beneath performance. And tonight, everything felt wrong. The guests weren't celebrating. They were waiting. Conversation stopped mid-sentence when she passed. Eyes tracked her movements with assessment rather than dismissal. Security personnel, at least 20 that she'd counted, stood positioned at every exit, hands resting near concealed weapons. What kind of succession ceremony needs this much security? She poured tea for an elderly woman whose rings could fund a small country, bowed, moved on. Poured for a man whose face she recognized from news reports about business acquisitions that read more like hostile takeovers. Bowed. Moved on. Then the monks entered. 6 of them, dressed in traditional Buddhist robes, chanting in rhythmic Korean that filled the hall like a heartbeat. They processed toward the platform carrying ceremonial items, incense, blessed water, a blade that gleamed under the lights. The crowd rose as one. Amara froze near the back, tray balanced on trembling hands. Because behind the monks came him. Chairman Jae-min Kim. 73 years old, built like a man who'd carved his empire from stone and blood. The Kim syndicate controlled everything from legitimate tech companies to other operations the news reports only hinted at. Shipping. Real estate. Import-export. He walked slowly, supported by 2 attendants, his face pale but composed. Midnight silk robes flowed around him like liquid shadow. When he reached the throne, he sat with the careful movements of someone in pain. Or someone barely conscious. The monks surrounded him, chanting louder now, blessing the transfer of power that would happen tonight. Behind the throne stood his son, Seo-Jun Kim. 34, Harvard-educated, rumored to be even more ruthless than his father. He stood perfectly still, hands clasped, face unreadable. Waiting for his inheritance. Beautiful, isn't it? Amara startled. An older gentleman had appeared beside her, silver-haired, kind-faced, wearing a suit that probably cost more than her entire wardrobe. Yes, sir, she murmured, remembering Marcus's rules. First time working a Kim family event? She nodded. His smile didn't reach his eyes. The chairman isn't well, you know. Collapsed earlier today. Doctor said it was exhaustion, but... He leaned closer, voice dropping. Between you and me, I think tonight's his last appearance. Amara's pulse quickened. Last appearance? Officially. The man's gaze shifted to the platform where Jae-min sat motionless. After tonight, his son takes over. All legal. All proper. As long as the ceremony completes before. He didn't finish. Didn't need to. Before the chairman dies. The gentleman moved away, disappearing into the crowd, leaving Amara standing there with ice spreading through her veins. She looked at the platform again. Really looked. Jae-min Kim sat too still. Amara had watched enough people in her life, enough sick relatives, enough exhausted patients at her grandmother's care facility, to know what barely conscious looked like. This wasn't it. She moved closer, pretending to refill empty cups along the front rows, her server training giving her permission to be near the platform without suspicion. The monks continued their chanting, circling the chairman with blessed smoke from incense burners. One prepared the succession ribbon, a thick crimson cord that would be tied to Jae-min's wrist, then cut by his son to symbolize the passing of power. Legal. Binding. Irreversible. Amara's eyes locked on the chairman's chest beneath the silk robes. Breathe, she willed him. Just breathe. Nothing. No rise. No fall. Her medical training from nursing prerequisites kicked in, she dropped out when tuition became impossible, but the knowledge remained. A human chest moves. Even shallow breathing shows movement. His didn't. She glanced at his hands, folded across his lap in ceremonial position. That's when she saw it. A twitch. His left index finger jerked, just once, barely noticeable. Her breath caught. Then his right hand spasmed, fingers curling slightly before going still again. Cadaveric spasm, her mind supplied. Postmortem muscle contractions. They happened 15 to 45 minutes after death. The tea tray nearly slipped from her hands. Jae-min Kim wasn't dying. He was already dead. And everyone on that platform, the monks, the attendants, maybe even his son, knew it. Continue service. A manager appeared at her elbow, voice sharp. Move along. But Amara's feet had rooted to the floor, her eyes tracking every detail now with forensic precision. The chairman's skin had a waxy quality under the lights. No flush. No pallor shifts when the monks moved him slightly to tie the ribbon. His eyes, barely visible beneath heavy lids, showed no response to the bright spotlights inches from his face. No pupil constriction. No blink reflex. Dead. How long have they been hiding this? She thought back to the whispers she'd caught in the kitchen earlier, frantic Korean between staff members that her limited understanding couldn't fully translate. But certain words had stood out. Transfer completed. Documents signed. Tonight. They weren't talking about the ceremony. They were talking about money. Assets. Power being moved while Jae-min still appeared alive enough to make it legal. The succession had to happen before he was officially declared dead, or everything would be contested. Investigated. Delayed. Someone had planned this down to the minute. On the platform, the eldest monk raised the ceremonial blade, an ornate thing with a jade handle and an edge that caught the light like a threat. Seo-Jun Kim stepped forward, extending his hand to receive it. Once that ribbon was cut, the transfer was complete. No investigation. No questions. No stopping what came next. Amara's grandmother's voice echoed in her memory, "Baby, you got a good heart, but you also got a mouth that won't quit when you see something wrong. Gonna get you in trouble one day." Today, apparently. She felt her body move before her mind caught up, muscle memory from a lifetime of not being able to stay quiet, not being able to look away from injustice even when it would have been safer. The tea tray hit the marble floor. Crash. Porcelain exploded like a gunshot. The chanting stopped. 300 heads turned. Amara didn't think. Didn't plan. Just ran. Stop the ceremony. Her voice cracked through the sudden silence, raw and too loud and completely inappropriate for a server to ever use in this setting. Security moved instantly, hands reaching inside jackets, bodies converging on her position. But she was faster. She hit the platform stairs, her practical shoes giving her traction the monk's robes didn't. Two attendants grabbed for her but she ducked, her smaller frame slipping between them. Her fingers found Jae-min Kim's neck. Pressed against where his pulse should be. Cold skin. No rhythm. Nothing. He's not alive. The words tore out of her. He's already dead. Chaos erupted like a dam breaking. Shouting in Korean, sharp, angry, panicked. Women screaming. Chairs scraping. Security rushing the platform. Get her off. Who is she? Remove her immediately. Hands grabbed her arms, yanking her backward. But Amara twisted, her voice rising above the noise. Check his pulse. Someone check his pulse. He's been dead for at least 30 minutes. That's when the room went silent. Not gradually. Instantly. Like someone had cut the sound. Amara's heart hammered as she realized why. One man had stood up. Tall. Broad-shouldered. Face carved from the same stone as his father's empire. Seo-Jun Kim. The heir. The future boss. He raised one hand, just one, and every security guard froze. Every guest went still. Even the monk stopped mid-motion. That kind of power didn't come from a title. It came from fear. He moved toward the platform with movements that were somehow both casual and predatory, his expensive shoes barely making sound against marble. When he reached Amara, still held between two guards, he stopped. His eyes met hers. Dark. Calculating. Utterly unreadable. "How do you know?" he asked. His English was perfect. Accentless. Harvard polished. Also terrifying. Amara's throat closed. Every survival instinct screamed at her to apologize, to take it back, to run. But she'd already jumped off this cliff. Because. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. Because he's been dead longer than an hour. Cadaveric spasms. No breathing. No pulse. And someone here knew exactly when he'd die. A murmur rippled through the crowd, elders exchanging looks, guests pulling out phones, security tightening formation. Seo-Jun's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. He turned to the family doctor hovering near the platform. Check him. It wasn't a request. The doctor, elderly, trembling, approached the chairman with shaking hands. Pressed fingers to the neck. The wrist. Leaned close to check breathing. The seconds stretched like hours. Finally, the doctor looked up. His face had gone ash pale. He's. Chairman Kim is. The word seemed to choke him. Gone. Cardiac failure. I'd estimate, at least 40 to 50 minutes ago. The hall exploded again, but different this time. Accusations flew. Elders shouted about betrayal. Someone screamed about the transfer documents. Phones came out everywhere, probably alerting lawyers, allies, enemies. The empire was fracturing in real time. But Seo-Jun didn't move. Didn't blink. He stood perfectly still, staring at the body that was supposed to have lived just 10 more minutes. Then slowly, so slowly, he turned back to Amara. While everyone else stared at the corpse. He stared at the witness who just destroyed his coronation. You didn't save him. His voice was soft. Deadly soft. Amara swallowed. No. But you stopped the ceremony. Yes. Something flickered in his eyes. Not gratitude. Something more complicated. Why? The question hung between them like a blade. Because, Amara whispered, it was wrong. His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. And now, he said, stepping closer, someone is going to kill you before morning. Her blood turned to ice. The people who orchestrated my father's death. He gestured to the chaos around them, elders arguing, security positioning, power players already forming alliances. They needed that ceremony completed. You just cost them billions. Possibly their lives. He took her wrist. Not gently. Not violently. With the grip of someone who owned everything he touched. You're coming with me, Amara Lewis. Her name in his mouth stopped her heart. How do you? Because, he said, pulling her toward a side exit as alarms began ringing through the compound, as security started locking down every door, I was the one who made sure you were working here tonight. If she just signed her death warrant, drop RIP in the comments. The private elevator descended in silence. Amara's mind raced, trying to process what Seo-Jun had just said while her body stayed locked in survival mode, heart pounding, muscles tensed, every instinct screaming at her to run. But run where? They were 40 floors up in a compound that had just gone into lockdown. Outside, she could hear alarms, shouting, the organized chaos of security protocols activating. And she was trapped in a steel box with the man who just admitted to orchestrating her presence at a murder scene. You're not breathing, Seo-Jun observed, his tone almost conversational. He still held her wrist, his grip firm but not painful. If you pass out, this becomes inconvenient. Inconvenient. The word came out sharp. Your father is dead, someone murdered him, and I'm inconvenient. My father was 73 with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. His voice remained emotionless. He was dying regardless. The only question was timing. The elevator dinged, doors opening to a floor Amara hadn't seen before, all dark wood and ambient lighting, clearly private quarters rather than ceremonial spaces. Seo-Jun pulled her into a study that looked like it belonged in a different century. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a desk that could have seated 10, windows overlooking the entire city like a kingdom waiting to be claimed. He released her wrist, moved to a bar cart, poured 2 glasses of something amber. Drink. He held one out. I don't. It's not poisoned. If I wanted you dead, you'd already be dead. He took a sip from his own glass. Drink. You're in shock. Amara took the glass with trembling hands, more to have something to hold than any desire to drink. Why did you make sure I was here? Because I needed a witness. A witness to what? Your father's murder. To the ceremony. He set his glass down with precise control. And to who would try to complete it despite knowing he was already dead. The implications crashed over her like a wave. You knew, she whispered. You knew he was dead before the ceremony even started. I knew he would be. Seo-Jun moved to the windows, hands clasped behind his back. My father died at 7:47 p.m. 43 minutes before the ceremony was scheduled to begin. And you just, let them prop him up. Let them. I needed to see who knew. He turned back to her, and for the first time, she saw something genuine in his expression. Rage. Carefully controlled, meticulously contained, but there. My father had cancer, yes. But he wasn't supposed to die tonight. He had at least 3 more months according to his doctors. Which means someone accelerated the timeline. Amara's criminology training kicked in despite her fear. Accelerated how? That's what you're going to help me figure out. Me? I'm a server. I'm not. You're a third-year criminology dropout from UCLA with a 3.9 GPA who left because you couldn't afford tuition while caring for your grandmother. He rattled off facts like he was reading a dossier. You worked as a nursing assistant before switching to catering. You have medical training, investigative instincts, and, most importantly, no connection to any family currently positioning for power in this building. The room tilted slightly. You investigated me. I investigate everyone. He pulled out his phone, showed her a photo that made her stomach drop. It was her. Serving at a corporate event 3 weeks ago. You noticed something wrong at that fundraiser, Seo-Jun continued. Caught one of the servers stealing medication from a guest's purse. Reported it quietly to management instead of causing a scene. Saved that woman's life, she was diabetic, needed that insulin. Amara remembered. The woman had sent her a thank you card. You notice things others miss, Seo-Jun said. You act when others stay silent. And you don't belong to this world, which means you can't be bought by the people trying to tear my empire apart. Your empire. She couldn't keep the edge from her voice. You mean the crime syndicate? His expression didn't change. I mean my family's business. Which, yes, operates in gray areas. But we have rules. Structure. We don't murder our own. Except someone just did. Exactly. He moved closer, and Amara had to fight not to step back. Which means war is coming. Between families, between factions, between everyone who thinks they can grab power while we're vulnerable. And before that war destroys everything my family built over 3 generations, I need to know who killed my father. Why not just let it be investigated? Call the police, let them. The police? He almost smiled. Do you know how many LAPD officers are on various families' payrolls? How many judges? Prosecutors? An official investigation would be compromised before it started. No. He shook his head. This stays internal. Family business. Amara set down her untouched glass. I can't help you. I don't know anything about. You know what you saw tonight. You can describe exactly who was on that platform, who had access to my father's body, who showed genuine surprise versus who was performing. His voice took on an edge. You have an eye for detail that my own people lack because they're too embedded in the politics. You're an outsider. That makes you invaluable. Or a liability. Also true. He didn't deny it. Which is why you'll stay here, under my protection, until we figure out who orchestrated this. Stay here. I have a grandmother who needs. Already handled. He pulled up another image on his phone, a photo of her grandmother's care facility. I've paid her fees for the next year. Upgraded her to private care. She's comfortable. Horror and gratitude warred in Amara's chest. You can't just. I can. I did. He pocketed the phone. You helped me tonight, whether you intended to or not. Now I'm helping you. We both benefit. And if I refuse? The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Then you walk out of here, Seo-Jun said quietly, and by morning, you're dead. The people who killed my father won't risk a witness who can testify to what she saw. They'll make it look like an accident. A robbery. Something clean. He paused. Your grandmother would be devastated. There it was. Not a threat. A statement of fact. Amara felt tears burn behind her eyes, anger, fear, frustration at being trapped in a situation she never asked for. I didn't want any of this, she whispered. I know. And surprisingly, he sounded like he meant it. But you saw something wrong and you spoke up. In my world, that's either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. I'm hoping it's the former. A knock at the door interrupted them. Come, Seo-Jun called. A woman entered, late 30s, beautiful, wearing a designer suit that screamed authority. She bowed slightly to Seo-Jun, then assessed Amara with sharp eyes. This is Min Seo, Seo-Jun introduced. My head of security. She'll explain the situation while I deal with the elders. The elders are demanding answers, Min Seo said in accented English. They're threatening to call an emergency council. Let them. Seo-Jun's voice hardened. Tell them I'll address them at midnight. And Min Seo? He glanced at Amara. She doesn't leave this floor. No one gets near her without my explicit permission. Understood. He moved toward the door, then paused, looking back at Amara one more time. I know you didn't ask for this, he said. But you stopped that ceremony for a reason. You said it was wrong. Help me find out who made it necessary. Then he was gone, leaving Amara alone with Min Seo and a choice that wasn't really a choice at all. You should eat something, Min Seo said, not unkindly. It's going to be a long night. Amara sank into a nearby chair, her legs finally giving out. What have I done? She whispered to the empty air. Outside the window, Los Angeles glittered like scattered diamonds. Beautiful. Dangerous. Full of secrets that killed. Would you trust Seo-Jun? Comment, trust, or run, we need to know. At 11:47 p.m., Min Seo's phone buzzed. She read the message, her expression darkening. Get up. Now. Amara had been studying crime scene photos Min Seo had reluctantly shown her, images of the chairman's body, the platform, everyone who'd been present. Her mind worked through possibilities, medical knowledge combining with investigative instinct. What's wrong? Someone leaked footage of you stopping the ceremony. Min Seo was already moving, pulling Amara toward a hidden door in the study's wall. It's everywhere online. Your face. Your name. You're being called the black server who exposed the Kim family murder. Amara's blood went cold. Exposed? I didn't. Doesn't matter what you did or didn't do. Perception is reality. The hidden door opened to a stairwell. Every family in this city now knows you're a witness. Which makes you a target. They descended rapidly, Min Seo's hand on her concealed weapon. Where's Seo-Jun? Dealing with a situation. Min Seo's jaw tightened. The elders tried to force an immediate succession vote. He's containing it. They emerged into a basement level, concrete walls, fluorescent lighting, the kind of space that never appeared on building plans. And waiting there, surrounded by 4 armed men, was someone Amara recognized from the ceremony. The elderly gentleman who'd warned her about the chairman's health. Ms. Lewis. He smiled that same kind smile that didn't reach his eyes. We need to talk. Min Seo's gun was out instantly. Stand down, Uncle Dae-young. Uncle. Amara's mind raced. Seo-Jun's father's brother, Min Seo confirmed, her weapon steady. And apparently a traitor. Dae-young sked. Such harsh words. I simply helped nature take its course. You killed him. The pieces clicked into place in Amara's mind. The chairman. You had access, family trust, medical knowledge. Pancreatic cancer is wonderfully convenient, Dae-young interrupted. Who would question when a dying man dies? Especially when his own doctor, who's been on my payroll for 6 months, signs the death certificate without hesitation. Why? Amara's voice shook. He was your brother. He was an obstacle. Dae-young's smile vanished. Jae-min wanted to legitimize the business. Go fully legal. Partner with the authorities instead of controlling them. He was going to destroy everything our father built. So you murdered him. I accelerated his death by a few months. There's a difference. He gestured to his men. And now you're going to help me ensure Seo-Jun doesn't take power. Why would I? Because if you don't, your grandmother dies. He pulled out a phone, showed her a live video feed. Her grandmother. Asleep in her care facility room. With a man standing over her bed. Amara lunged forward, but Min Seo caught her. Touch her and you're dead, Min Seo snarled at Dae-young. Then Ms. Lewis cooperates. He pocketed the phone. Simple terms, she makes a statement saying she saw Seo-Jun near his father's body before the ceremony. Plants suspicion. Creates doubt. The elders will never allow a potential patricide to take power. That's a lie, Amara said. He wasn't. Truth is malleable. Dae-young shrugged. Especially with the right pressure. Make the statement, or your grandmother has a tragic accident. Your choice. The moment crystallized. Amara thought about every time in her life she'd seen something wrong and stayed quiet to stay safe. Every time she'd swallowed words that needed to be said because speaking up meant risk. She thought about her grandmother teaching her, stand up for what's right, even when it costs you. And she thought about Seo-Jun, who'd somehow seen something in her worth protecting. No, she said. Dae-young's expression hardened. Excuse me. I said no. Amara stepped forward, her voice strengthening. You killed your own brother. Tried to steal his empire. Threatened an innocent woman. And you expect me to help you? She laughed, wild and a little unhinged. I'd rather die. That can be arranged. The lights went out. Gunfire erupted in the darkness, muzzle flashes lighting the space like lightning. Someone grabbed Amara, pulled her down. Min Seo's voice in her ear, stay low. When the lights came back on seconds later, Dae-young's men were on the ground, disarmed. And Seo-Jun stood in the doorway with 20 armed security personnel. Uncle. His voice could have frozen hell. How disappointing. Dae-young straightened, trying to maintain dignity. Nephew, you don't understand the full picture. I understand you murdered my father. Seo-Jun walked forward slowly. I've known for 3 days. Had my suspicions for 3 months. Tonight confirmed everything. Then why the ceremony? Dae-young's eyes narrowed. Why the theatrics? Because I needed you to reveal your allies. Seo-Jun gestured to the men on the ground. Every family member, every guard, every elder who supported your coup. Now I know exactly who needs to be removed. He stopped in front of Amara, helped her to her feet. You okay? She nodded, not trusting her voice. Seo-Jun turned back to his uncle. You threatened an innocent woman. Endangered my father's legacy. Betrayed our blood. His voice dropped to something lethal. Traditional punishment applies. Dae-young went pale. Seo-Jun, please. Take him to the holding room. The elders will decide his fate. Security moved in immediately. As they dragged Dae-young away, Seo-Jun looked at Amara. You could have lied, he said quietly. Saved yourself. I could have stayed quiet tonight too. She managed a shaky smile. Apparently I'm bad at self-preservation. For the first time, she saw him almost smile back. Good, he said. I prefer my allies honest. She chose truth over safety. Subscribe before you miss what happens next. 3 weeks later, Amara stood in a UCLA advisor's office, staring at a full scholarship letter. I don't understand, she said for the 3rd time. This says all tuition covered, plus living expenses, plus. An anonymous benefactor, the advisor explained, smiling. They were very specific. You're to finish your criminology degree with 0 debt. Amara knew exactly who the benefactor was. She hadn't seen Seo-Jun since that night in the basement, though Min Seo checked in regularly. The official story was that Chairman Jae-min Kim had died of natural causes, cancer finally claiming him. An internal family investigation had revealed administrative irregularities that led to several resignations. Dae-young and his co-conspirators had simply disappeared. Amara didn't ask where. Some answers she didn't need. There's one condition, the advisor continued, pulling out a letter. You're to read this first. The envelope was heavy cream paper, sealed with actual wax, old school and oddly formal. Amara opened it carefully. Ms. Lewis. You stopped the ceremony because it was wrong. You refused to lie when it would have saved your life. You have qualities rare in any world, but especially in mine. This scholarship is not a gift. It's an investment. Finish your degree. Become what you were meant to be. And when you're ready, if you're ready, I have a position that requires someone who notices what others miss and speaks when others stay silent. The world needs investigators who can't be bought. I need someone I can trust. The choice, as always, is yours. SJK. P.S. Your grandmother's care is permanently handled. That's not conditional on anything. She raised someone remarkable. She deserves comfort. Amara read it twice, her hands trembling slightly. Are you all right? The advisor asked. Yeah. She folded the letter carefully. Yeah. Outside, Los Angeles sprawled in all its complicated glory. She thought about that night, the fear, the chaos, the moment she'd chosen to speak up despite knowing it could kill her. She thought about Seo-Jun, who operated in shadows but somehow recognized light when he saw it. And she thought about her future, suddenly full of possibilities she'd never imagined. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number, the city has cameras everywhere now. Security footage from that night keeps appearing in interesting places. Someone's still trying to cause problems. Who is this? Unknown, your future employer. If you accept. But first, finish school. Learn everything. Become dangerous in legal ways. Why me? Unknown, because when everyone else performed loyalty, you performed truth. That's rarer than you know. What if I say no? Unknown, then you say no. I don't own you, Amara. I'm offering partnership. She stared at the message for a long moment. Then typed, ask me again in 2 years. When I have my degree and know what I'm worth. The response came immediately, deal. Try not to expose any more crime families before then. It's hard on my blood pressure. Despite everything, despite the danger, the fear, the absolute insanity of the past 3 weeks, Amara laughed. 2 years later. Amara walked across the graduation stage, diploma in hand, her grandmother crying happy tears in the audience. Top of her class. Job offers from LAPD, FBI, private security firms. And one email waiting in her inbox with no subject line. She opened it at the celebration dinner, while her grandmother told everyone about her brilliant grandbaby. Congratulations, Investigator Lewis. Office ready when you are. 3rd floor, East Wing. Your credentials are waiting. We have 47 active cases requiring someone who notices what others miss. No pressure. But the city's getting more complicated. And I could use someone who stops ceremonies when they're wrong. Seo-Jun. Her grandmother noticed her expression. What is it, baby? A job offer. The FBI one. I knew you'd. Different. Amara showed her the email, watching her grandmother's face carefully. Her grandmother read it, eyes narrowing. Then she looked up. This the man who paid for everything? Yes. The one from that night you won't talk about? Yes. Her grandmother was quiet for a long moment. Then, he dangerous. Extremely. But he kept his word. Protected you. Took care of me. Every promise. Another pause. Then her grandmother smiled, that knowing smile that came from 7 decades of reading people. Baby, you spent your whole life trying to fix broken things and fight for people who couldn't fight for themselves. She squeezed Amara's hand. Maybe it's time you did that with the resources to actually make a difference. Even if it means working for someone who saw value in you when others saw just a server. Her grandmother's grip tightened. Go. Make the world better however you can. Just promise me you'll stay safe. I promise. That night, Amara sent her response. I accept. But I have conditions. 1. I work cases my way. No interference. 2. I walk away if I'm asked to do something criminal. 3. My grandmother gets lifetime protection. The reply came in under a minute. Agreed. Welcome to the team. Report Monday, 9 a.m. Try not to be late. I have 3 murders, 2 missing persons, and 1 very messy embezzlement case waiting. P.S. Min Seo is excited to work with you again. She's been telling everyone about the woman who exposed a murder at a succession ceremony. P.P.S. Your office has a view. Figured you earned it. Monday morning, Amara walked into the Kim building wearing her first professional suit, badge in her pocket, ready to investigate things the police couldn't touch. Seo-Jun met her personally. Investigator Lewis. He extended his hand. Mr. Kim. She shook it firmly. Ready to make the world more complicated? She thought about that night 2 years ago, how terrified she'd been, how certain she was going to die. How she'd chosen truth anyway. Actually, she said, I'm ready to make it clearer. Someone has to notice what's wrong. He almost smiled. That's why you're here. Min Seo appeared with 3 case files. Welcome aboard. Hope you're ready, this city doesn't sleep. Amara took the files, feeling her grandmother's words settle in her chest like armor. Make the world better however you can. Let's get to work, she said. And for the first time in her life, Amara Lewis felt exactly where she belonged. Not invisible. Not silent. But seen, heard, and dangerous in all the right ways. The city had cameras everywhere now. Good thing she knew how to see what others missed. She survived. She graduated. She became dangerous. Drop a comment if you'd accept Seo-Jun's offer too, and subscribe because her first case drops next week.